Yeah. Okay. Hope my screen is visible to everyone, right? Right. Okay. Today we'll be discussing with the Power BI training course, actually. So, what exactly? So, in the last few weeks, like you might be seeing many communications like the Power BI training course, the demo is scheduled on today. So in the today's demo, let me give a brief introduction about what exactly Power BI is and what are the different opportunities which are there with the Power BI. And next, we'll be discussing with the course curriculum, and also we'll be discussing with how we'll proceed the course in the coming 45 days. So coming to my introductions, my name is Janardhan Patipaka. Have totally 8.5 years of experience in the corporate sector, where I'm been training like since 5.5 years. I have an experience in the Power BI, and since last 1 years, more than have trained 12 batches in the Power BI. So apart from that, I'm teaching as a guest lectures like for other institutes in the Ameripet, where I will provide the Power BI SQL coaching to the students. And apart from that, I have my technical background. I am from a non-technical guy where I started my career, my BPharm background with pharma MBA. And afterwards, I have shifted my career into this data science field where I'm working as a Power BI developer. So, and the first question here is, so what exactly we are attending the demo on the Power BI. The first question comes to your mind. So why we want to learn the Power BI? So is second question, is there any market for the Power BI? So in order to, if you join any course, first you need to understand whether that course has some market, like is the demand in particular in this particular scenario. So when you look at this Power BI, simply we call it as where we use the Power BI. So many organizations, mostly they will store the data. Okay, they will store the data. If the organization is very small, they store the data in some Excel if the data size is less. And if the data size is very huge, like it is considering of some 100 lakhs of millions of rows, they will store the data in databases. The databases may be SQL or it may be Oracle databases. So now the market is need, like we have a lot of data in the present scenario. Now the world is looking for a tool which will analyze this particular data and derive some insights from that particular data. So while deriving the insight, it will like they are looking for a tool. When you give a data, then they are looking, the market is looking for a tool which will derive the insights and represent in the form of some visuals or some graphs so that it will be easy for the end users like the client to interpret its business. So when you look at this present scenario, the market everywhere, the data size is growing very rapid. Every organization is depending upon the data. Right now, I'm conducting the demo. So if after the demo, I want to collect the details from you, so I will roll out some Google Form in the chat box and I will collect the data from you. So this data will be useful for me for the further communication. In the same way, maybe a smaller organization, maybe larger organization, every organization is depending upon the data. When you look at these estimates, near about the latest estimate, more than every day, 328 million terabytes of the data is generating worldwide. Okay, see, 1 terabyte is equal to, you can see this much big figure. So every day, this much of the data is generated every day. And when you look at annually how the data is growing, when you look at now, this data is an asset for organization. See, suppose if the Flipkart, it is a Flipkart opened some e-retail, e-commerce business. So at the end of the day, it want to analyze how many customers are purchased the specific product. So how they can get that information? Once you shop any product, by looking at the data only, they can interpret which type of the products are sold more. So that means every organization is depending upon the data, and maybe in smaller organization or the larger business, every organization is storing their business information in the form of data. So when you look at C from the year 2010 to 2025, in the initial years, we can see the data size was very less because in 2010 and 12, the penetration of the internet was very low. Okay, the penetration was internet as well. The number of the people browsing on the internet was very less in 2010. Like as the years are progressing, the lot of the peoples are coming on online and hourly spending on the internet is increasing, and the penetration of the smartphones and the remote in the very remote areas also. So the penetration of the internet has penetrated so fast. So most of the people spending and the hourly spending on the internet is increasing. The previously there was no that much online market came into the picture, but when you look at see from the 2010, when you see in the figure 2019, from here the graph is showing a very high peak, because in the 2019 you can see the world has experienced a drastic situation called as COVID pandemic, where most of them are stick to the due to the lockdown situation, they have stick to home and they started browsing on the internet, and everything has become online. The spending upon hourly spending on the internet is increased. So in the 2010 or 1999 before, there was a more paperwork was introduced. So everything was like file based system. But now when you look at here from 2020 or 22, the e-governance come into the picture. Everything is get documented. The lot of creation of apps. You can see if you go to for the previously, if you want to open some passport, you need to go to the manual, you need to stand in the line and you can apply. But now everything has become online. Right from the applying of the license, booking of the slot, maybe land registration, everything has become online. When a system comes into online, the data will be generated at the back end and it will be stored somewhere. So when you look at from 2019, after the COVID, this the generation of the data has picked up very rapidly. And when you see now 2024 or 25, see more than 175 terabytes of the data is generating annually. Now the data is there, but the market is looking for a tool that the data, they should analyze this particular data and derive some insights from this particular data. So how they derive the insights? So if the data, same data, if I will provide you in an Excel or in a tables, it will be hard for you to interpret this particular data. But same data, I'm providing this year on year, how the data is growing. If I represent in the form of a picture or a bar graph, you can, by looking at see this graph, you can see, yes, there was an increase in the trend of the data year by year. And you can spot it 2025 has generated high amount of the data. Next coming to 2024. So this type of analysis you can make by when the data is represented in the form of graph. If I give the same data in the table, it will be very hard for you to interpret which year the data size is more. Okay, so as there is, you can say as the data is generating by day annually. So this Power BI is a tool which works on this particular data. From this data, it will generate some visuals. From this data, it will create some amazing reports. And these reports are used by the client to analyze his business performance. Okay. As long as there is a demand for the demand for the data never stops, and it may not be surprising. Even by 2025, it may reach 200 terabytes of the data. So as long as there's a demand for the data never stops, and Power BI is an efficient tool which works on this data and creates some important visuals and which will be helpful for the client to analyze his business performance. Okay. Now, when you look at the Power BI, first every candidate, when you ask for a technical background student or technical person who is having knowledge and on technical side, he will say, what is Power BI? Power BI means nothing but business intelligence. So some people call Power BI, call it as, they will call it a simple word. Power BI is a business intelligence software, they will say. So as a candidate, you must know what is exactly the meaning of business intelligence and how the process of the business intelligence runs. So this is the basic thing that a candidate, a non-technical background student should know what exactly the business intelligence is. Now, the business intelligence means it is a process. Simply, we can say it is a process by using some tools or by using some methods or by using some techniques. Okay, tools are nothing but the tool which we are going to study, the demo you are conducting on Power BI. So by using some tools, by using some methods, by using some techniques, that means here we are using some tool called Power BI. By using the tool, we can collect some data. And after collecting the data, we will analyze that particular data. And after that, we will transform that particular data. So what is meant by collect, analyze, and transform? So if in any small organization, it might store the data in some Excel file. So in order to work on that particular data, the Power BI first it should bring the data from Excel sheet into Power BI. The process of getting the data from where the data is stored, example in Excel, and getting into the Power BI tool, we call it as collect. Then analyze, you need to analyze that particular data. And whether the data, after analyzing the particular data, which data it is, whether it is a fund purpose related to the finance or it related to the insurance, that we'll analyze that particular data. And then we will transform this particular data. What is meant by transformation? Suppose if I will store the data may be in unstructured format. Suppose if I ask you, give you your mobile number or give you your, I will ask you to, after attending the demo, please give your addresses. So most of the people will give the address in a different way. Suppose I ask for the mobile number. Some people ask M.B number. Some will give as mobile number. Some will give it as phone number. Some will type as PHNO. Some will type as just M. So some will type as mobile NUMBR. So like that, they will give the data in a different format. But while using the data, you should transform the data into a uniform format. Okay. That means that is called as transformation of the data. Any organization, suppose I will ask to give the address. Some will type as a pin code as PINCOD. Some will give as P.C. Some will give as P.COD. So everything is the pin code only, but some will give in full form, some will give in an abbreviated form. But if you use the data, if you want to use the data in a tools like Power BI, your data should be uniform. Your data should be uniform. So first, we will collect the particular data. If any organization will gives you data, if the client will gives you data, first you will collect that particular data. After that, you will analyze that particular data. After analyzing, you will transform that particular data, that unstructured data, into a structured format. Now, after transforming the data, then you will convert this particular data into some valuable and meaningful information. Okay. So that means how you can convert that valuable and meaningful information. Suppose the client has given some data to you. You will convert the data into some graphs or some visuals. Okay, some reports you will build from the data and you will share that meaningful information. It may be in the form of graphs or it may be in the form of some amazing visuals. and you will share that report, that visuals to the client. So what the client will do after looking at this, your visuals and reports, the client will take the decision process. He will take the business. He will take the decision process to optimize his business or to improve your business. So example, I will give a simple example to understand business intelligence. Suppose a client like Flipkart, they have approached you. So as a Power BI developer, so you will use a tool like Power BI. With the help of Power BI, you will collect the data which is given by that Flipkart client. You will analyze that particular data and you will convert the data into structured format. And after convert the structured format, you will create some visuals or some important or some amazing reports from the data. So that visuals contain some meaningful information, nothing but which product has sale more, what is the product in each category, how the product performance are there. Those are called as meaningful information that we will represent it in the form of some graphs. And after building the graph, you will share to whom? The client, the Flipkart client. You will share that report to him and he will see that report and he will take the decision process to improve his business performance. He will see in the, if you provide a pie chart, he will provide a graph, bar chart, which products are performing well, which products are decreasing. So he will use that report to improve his business performance. So this process is called as business intelligence. Nothing but by using some tools, will collect the data and analyze the data. From the data, you will provide some meaningful information. That meaningful information, you share it to the client. The client will use that information to optimize his business. So this entire process, we call it as business intelligence. And Power BI is a tool which will perform all this operation. It will collect the data, it will analyze the data with Power BI. We can transform the data, we can build the report, we can share the report to the client. That's why the Power BI, we call it as business intelligence software. Okay. In the same way, when you look at what are the key components of the business intelligence generally, when you look at the key components of business intelligence, the business intelligence involves first one, data collection. What is meant by data collection? If the organization is very small, the process first step is called as the business intelligence is collecting the data. Okay. So I said a small organizations, maybe like a smaller organization will store the data in Excel, or the larger organization will may store in the SQL Server databases. So first step, we call it as data collection. You will collect the data in the business. Then after that, data transformation. So the data may be not be in a raw format. That may be, it may be not uniform. It may be a unstructured data. You will convert that unstructured data into the structured format. That process, we call it as data processing and data transformation. Once you transform the data, you will analyze that particular data. So how, what are the different tables are there? And you will try to build a relationship between the tables. Those process, we call it as data analysis. So suppose the organization, every organization may store the data in different tables. Okay. In the tables, we have different type of columns. We'll try to analyze the tables with what are the different tables we store the data. We'll try to build a relationship between the tables. That process, we call it as data analysis. After analyzing the data, you will try to build some visuals from it. Okay, some visuals based upon, suppose you build some pie charts, some graphs, or some decomposition tree, many more than 30 or 40 different types of the graphs that you can build by using Power BI. So after the data visualization, from this data, you will try to build a report. And from the report, you will try to build a dashboards. So you may ask a simple question, what is the difference between the report and a dashboard? Report means the report contains the group of the visuals. So group of the visuals are clubbed together, will form the reports. And what is meant by the dashboard? Suppose from these visuals, if you create 3 or 4 reports. So from these visuals, assume you create 3 or 4 reports. From each report, you will try to take some visuals and you attach. That means you will pin to the dashboard. So the report contains a group of the visuals and dashboard contains the visuals from different reports. Example, from this graph, you may build 4 or 5 reports. That means a report for finance, a report for HR, a report for operation team, a report for quality analysis team, a report for different type of the reports for data engineer team, business analytics team. You will try to build different many reports from these visuals. But the dashboard, suppose this dashboard will give a high level information. Suppose if you want to present a dashboard like company, how the company is performing through a dashboard to CEO of the company. So in this dashboard, you will try to give a only high level information. That means how HR in the HR, how many, suppose if you prepare from the visual this from the visuals, if you create some HR report, the HR report will contain lot of information. But your CEO will want to see only high level information. How many are recruited last month and how many are pending and what are those type of high level information you want to see. So from each and every report, suppose if you have 5 or 6 reports, from that reports you will take only the important high level information, the summary visuals you will take and you will attach to the dashboard. So that is we call it as dashboard. Okay, from the visuals we create many reports. From each report you will try to take some visuals and you will attach to the dashboard. So this is the components of business intelligence. We'll collect the data. Second, you will process the data. The data may be unstructured. You will convert unstructured data into structured data. Next, you will analyze that particular data by building the relationship between the tables. Then after analyze the data, you will try to build the visuals from it. From the different type of the visuals, you will try to create the reports. From the reports, you will try to create the dashboard. All this process will be done by the Power BI. And with the Power BI, you can collect the data, transform the data, you can analyze the data, you can build the visuals, you can build the reports, you can build the dashboard. That's why the Power BI is called as business intelligence software. And one more thing, when you ask for the different people, some people will call it as Power BI as business intelligence software, and some people will call it as ETL software. When they ask, people will come call Power BI as an ETL software. What is, you need to understand what is a full form of ETL. E stands for extraction, T stands for transformation, L stands for L stands for loading. Extraction means the process of getting the data. Suppose an organization is storing the data in the Excel. From the Excel, you will connect to the data. That means you will extract the data. That process we call it as extraction. T stands for transformation. I already said the data may be unstructured. By using some menu-based options in the Power BI, we will transform that unstructured data into structured data, where T we call it as transformation. After transforming the data into structured format, you will give L. L stands for load. You will load the data into Power BI. So this extraction of the data, transformation of the data, loading of the data, these three will be done by one component in the Power BI. That component we call it as Power Query. So this Power Query is a ETL software which is present in the Power BI. Okay, as Power BI is doing this ETL process, that means it will extract the data, transform the data, and load the data. Some people are calling the Power BI as an ETL software. And it is also doing data analysis. Suppose if you load hundreds of the table into your Power BI desktop. So we will try to build a relationship between the tables. We have some concept in the Power Pivot. When we discuss in the Power Pivot, we have one-to-one relationship, one-to-many relationship, star schema, snowflake schema. So we will build some data modeling by building the relationship between the tables. So you do the data analysis. As data analysis we do in the Power Pivot, some people are calling Power BI as a data analysis software. And when you ask someone, some people will call it as data. Power BI we call simply they call as visualization software. Why? Because by using Power BI, we will try to create some amazing visuals by using Power BI desktop. That's why some people are calling it as visualization software. And if you ask someone, they will call the Power BI as a reporting software. It is a reporting tool, they are saying. Because from this visuals, after creating some visuals, from these visuals, you will try to create the reports. And these reports are shared to the client. That's why some people are calling the Power BI as a reporting software. And this ETL, data analysis, visualization, reporting, all this process will comes under data analytics process. And that's why some people are calling Power BI as data analytics software. Okay. Power BI is called through Power BI, we will do the ETL transformation. That's why we call it as ETL software. With this, we'll do the data analysis by building the relationship between the tables. That's why they are calling it as data analysis software. With Power BI, we can create some important visuals. That's why they are calling it as visualization software. Through Power BI, from this visuals, we'll try to create the report. So that's why it is called it as a reporting software. And all this process are coming under the data analytics. Some people are calling it as data analytics software. Or all this process is a business intelligence. This is a business intelligence process. That's why in a single word, you can say Power BI is a business intelligence software. Now, I am saying with the help of the Power BI, we are trying to create the visuals. So these visuals will represent some meaningful information, because if you provide the data in the form of some Excel or in the Word document or Excel, it is hard for a person to interpret that particular data. See, if I give this graph saying in the form of data or in the form of in a Excel, by looking at, you cannot say like which category is having a sale. By looking at, see, I can say this red is a category here. It is having the highest sales. Then you can say that yellow and these are second. Then you can say the third is orange and these two are having similar sales. So that way, when we store, when we give the information in the form of some graphs, it is easy for a client to see or to interpret the information. So it will be easy for to interpret the information when we provide in the form of visual. So sum of sales by region, I'm representing in the form of pie chart. By looking at it, you can directly interpret your data. Yes, Northeast more than at least 45%, it is having the highest share. Then coming to next 39% Europe. Then coming to Asia, which is 11%. So by looking, when you provide this in the form of this graphs, within a fraction of seconds, when you look at that particular data, you can able to analyze this information. That's why keeping the visuals, when we provide the information in the form of the graph, it will be easy for a person to interpret the information. Okay. Now, that's why, because with the Power BI, we'll try to create this type of important visuals, amazing visuals. That's why we call it as Power BI, we call it as visualization software. Now, I already said in the previous one, I'm saying the Power BI is a data analysis software. So you need to understand what exactly the process we call it as data analysis. What is data analysis? The data analysis is nothing but, suppose you take any organization. So I already said the organizations are very small. If the organizations are very small, like if I want to take the details from you, I will store the data in Excel sheet. But any larger organizations where some hundreds of transactions, thousands, millions of transactions, like lakhs of transactions will takes place, those the organizations will store the data in databases like SQL Server. So the place where the companies will store their business information, we call it as OLTP, online transactional processing. That means every transactions are recorded at a particular place. We call it as OLTP database. In the OLTP database, the data may be some unstructured format. So from this OLTP, any organization will store the data, the place where the companies will store the business information or where they store the transaction information, we call it as OLTP. On this OLTP database, you will try to apply ETL transformation. ETL transformation means you will extract this particular database. That you will transform. If the data is not uniform, you will transform the data. If the data is unstructured format, if it is not in uniform, if it is not in a synchronous manner, you will by using some ETL concept, you will convert this unstructured data into structured data. So this data, we call it as this database. On OLTP, if you apply the some ETL transformation, the data we call it as OLAP database. This OLAP database, that means this OLTP database contains more tables, but where OLAP database, it contains less tables, and it contains the structured format. It contains the structured data because you have applied some ETL transformation. In the OLAP database, suppose initially the organization will store all the data in the OLTP, but your client is interested to learn the data of only last 5 years. Okay, we will apply the transformation to this data and it will load only last 5 years data. And from this data, and you will apply the ETL transformation and convert the unstructured data into structured data. And from this OLAP database only, you will try to create the reports. So this reports contains some actionable information. That means actionable information, nothing but how they will create the report. By building some important visuals, they will try to create the reports. Now, after creating the reports, they will share to him, they share to the client. The reports are shared to the client, and the client will use this information to improve his business performances. So this process is called as data analysis process. OLTP and OLTP will apply ETL transformation, convert into OLAP database. From OLAP data, will create the reports. From the reports, these reports are shared to the client. And it is not recommended to create the reports directly here because the data contains unstructured data. So you will create the reports. It is never recommended to create the reports directly on OLTP database. On the OLTP database, you need to convert some ETL process you need to apply and convert to OLAP. And from this OLAP database only, you will try to create the report. Okay. See, the data, when you look at the structured data, the data looks somewhat it's uniform. So the analysis will be easy on the structured data. Semi-structured means some zigzag. Unstructured data means the data is not stored properly. And from this unstructured data, you cannot directly build the reports. You will build the reports based on the structured data only. Then you will get the visuals without any errors. Now, one more thing. What happens, Supat sir, you are saying from the beginning, structured and unstructured data. What happens if I build the data from unstructured data without applying any transformation? I'm directly building the visuals on unstructured data. So how the visuals will be, how the visuals I said, if you build the visuals on unstructured data, you will get the visuals, the visuals will not give the meaningful information. See, when you look at this, this data, we call it as unstructured data. Why means we have two columns, country and sales. See, here we are storing in this country, we are storing the country name and sales. So United States, some are writing as United States. Some are mentioning United States as US. Some are mentioning as USA. Some are mentioning as U.S.A. Some are mentioning as United States of America. And they are giving the same information. But when we look at logically, United States, US, USA, USA, U.S.A, United, all these are same. So when you look at the country sales, usually it should be 100 plus 200 plus 300 plus 400 plus 500. It will comes to more or less or 1500 something. 5, 4, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 1500. Because the data is totally of one country only. But while storing the data, they are giving the names. And UK, United Kingdom 100, UK is 200. Actually, UK means 100 plus 200, 300. United Kingdom and UK are same. But there some are mentioning in the abbreviation, some are mentioning it as an uh, without abbreviation, full name they are giving. So when you try to, if the client want to analyze the graph, you want to say what is the sales of United States and UK, I want to represent in a bar chart. Now, if you provide like this United States, if you build a graph with this unstructured data, United States 100, 200, your client will go pan. Reason being, United States, US, USA, all these are same. So actually the data should come this 1500, but it has weakened speed because this data is unstructured data. Now by using Power Query, you will in the Power Query we have in the Power BI we have as a Power Query. From the Power Query, we convert this unstructured data into structured data. That means all these are nothing but United States only. You are convert all this into United States. When you all this, you will get as 1500. This United States. United Kingdom, UK are also United Kingdom. So now it is uniform. All the for all countries related to the United States, you give United States. For UK, you have mentioned as United Kingdom and you have given the values. Now, if you build a visual from this set, from this bar chart, if you want to find the sales of United States, it will all add all United States. That is 1500 you will get. For UK, see United Kingdom, if you add this, you will get 300. So like this, if you want to, you need to first, if you get the data, you need to convert. If the data is not in a uniform, you will need to convert into uniform data, that is structured data. From the structured data only, you need to create the visual. So that is the importance of structured versus unstructured data. Okay. When you look at data analysis, what is meant by data analysis? How actually data analysis will take place in Power BI? Now we need to understand. We are saying in the Power BI, 90% of the Power BI. What is meant by actually Power BI is a business intelligence software, and simply we can name Power BI is the name of collection of software. It contains lot of software in it. So the major component of the Power BI, we call it as Power BI desktop. What is meant by Power BI desktop? This power in the Power BI, this Power BI desktop, we call it as developmental software. Why Power BI we call it as developmental software? Because majority of the report, 90% of the report will be developed. 99% of the report will be developed in the, we develop the report in the Power BI desktop itself. That's why the Power BI desktop is called as developmental software. And again, when you look at this Power BI desktop, I will show you what is Power BI desktop, what is Power Query, what is Power Pivot, what is Power View. First, let us understand theoretically, and I will show you how the Power BI desktop will look. Okay. When you look at the Power BI desktop, this is the process where you build the reports, where you develop the reports. And when you look again, this Power BI desktop will be divided into three parts. The first part we call it as Power Query. What is meant by Power Query? Power Query is a ETL software. Just now I mentioned with this, if the data, suppose to the Power BI desktop, we have connected some data from Excel and the data is not a structured format. You will apply ETL process by using Power Query and convert the data into structured format. So to make that ETL transformation in the Power BI desktop, we have Power Query. Now the next one we call it as Power Pivot. What is meant by Power Pivot? Because any organizations will try to store the data in some Excel sheet or they may be stored in the form of tables. So once the tables are loaded into Power BI desktop, we will try to build a relationship between the tables. So that we call it as Power Pivot, the database which used to create the OLAP. we call it as Power Pivot, where we will try to load the tables. After loading, you will try to build the relationships, try to build a schema between the tables. All this will be done in called as Power Pivot. In the Power BI desktop also, we have another one called as Power View. What is meant by Power View? In the Power BI desktop, we have a Power View software where you can build some important visuals and reports. It is used to Power View is used to create the report. Power Query. Suppose in the Power BI desktop, it divided into three parts. Power Query. With the help of Power Query, we'll apply ETL transformation and convert organized data into structured data, unstructured data into structured data. With the Power Pivot, we'll try to build a relationship between the tables. We have a Power View where we'll try to build the reports in the Power BI. So Power Query, Power Pivot, Power View, all these are the components of Power BI desktop. And the development phase of the report will be done in Power BI desktop. That's why the Power BI desktop is called as developmental software. Now let us see how Power BI desktop will looks, how we can E stands for extraction, how we'll extract the data. T stands for transformation, how we will transform the data. L stands for load. We'll see how to load the data. Power Pivot. In the Power Pivot, we'll see different type of tables and how we'll try to build the relationship between the tables. Power View. In the Power BI desktop, we have a Power View where we have hundreds of the charts. From the charts, we will try to create the visuals and reports and you will share to the client. Now let us see what exactly the Power BI, how the Power BI desktop will looks. Now let us see over here, the Power BI desktop. Now in order to load the proceed, this is the Power BI desk. So once there is one question which will be the interview question will be. So how first this is the Power BI desktop interface. So if I want to open a new report, see, go to file, create a new blank report. A blank report is opening in the Power BI. Let us see. This is the blank report. This is the blank. We call it as Power BI desktop. Okay. Now, generally, if you want to install this Power BI desktop, how you will install this Power BI desktop into your system? Okay. The first thing is there are two ways where you can install Power BI desktop into your system. First one is you can install the Power BI from here. You can go to the search button, click on Microsoft Store, like Microsoft, or simply you can write as store. See, when you click on store, it will open Microsoft Store. Just open this Microsoft Store. Once open the Microsoft Store, just you click on Power, like click. It will open this Power BI desktop. It will Power Apps something Power BI, but it will open Power BI desktop. Just click on it. See, once you click the Power BI desktop will be open. This here instead I have already installed this Power BI desktop. That's why it is showing for me option as open.